The Forgotten Ones. The mining ship, Prosperity's End, drifted silent and cold through the emptiness of the Omega Nebula, a place where even the bravest spacers feared to travel. Inside its rusted hull, 43 prisoners from 7 different worlds sat waiting to die. The Galactic Authority had dumped them here 3 days ago, their crimes ranging from political rebellion to simple theft, but their punishment was the same: abandonment in the most isolated corner of known space. Captain Sarah Chen sat cross-legged on the metal floor, her engineer's mind automatically calculating how much time they had left. The life support systems were failing, the food processors had stopped working yesterday, and the water recyclers were producing nothing but brown sludge. Around her, the other prisoners argued in a dozen different languages, their voices echoing off the bare walls like the cries of trapped animals. "This is madness," roared Vex, a cybernetic-enhanced Nexari, whose chrome implants sparked with each angry gesture. His warrior's pride couldn't accept dying in a cage, and his massive clawed hands kept reaching for weapons that weren't there. "We should break down the doors. Take control of what systems still work." Zephyr, a young Altarian with skin like blue crystal, looked up from a damaged control panel she'd been trying to repair. Her people were known for their technical skills, but even she seemed defeated. "There's nothing to control, Vex. The main computer is dead, the engines are cold, and we're drifting in a communication dead zone. No signals can reach us here, and we can't reach anyone else." The arguments continued, but Sarah noticed something interesting. The 3 other humans aboard the ship, Dr. Elena Vasquez, mining specialist Tom Bradley, and communications officer Lisa Park, all sat quietly like her. They weren't panicking, weren't shouting, weren't giving up hope. They were waiting. Korath, an elderly Mendorian philosopher with 4 wise arms and eyes that had seen too much, shuffled over to where Sarah sat. His voice was soft, barely audible above the arguments. "You humans, you're different. Why are you not afraid like the rest of us?" Sarah looked up at the kind old being and smiled. "Who says we're not afraid? We're just patient." "Patient for what? Death?" "No," Sarah said quietly, glancing at her fellow humans. "For rescue." Korath's 4 arms gestured in confusion. "But child, we are beyond all help. The Authority made sure of that. They chose this place specifically because nothing ever comes here. Nothing ever leaves." Dr. Vasquez, a sturdy woman with graying hair and steady hands, joined the conversation. "The Authority thinks they know everything about human space travel. They're wrong." Before Korath could ask what she meant, the ship shuddered. Not the usual grinding of failing systems, but something else. Something external. The argument stopped as everyone felt it, a vibration that seemed to come from outside the hull. Zephyr jumped up from her panel, her crystal skin flickering with excitement. "That's not a system failure. Something just scanned us. Active sensors, very powerful." Vex's cybernetic eye began glowing red as it switched to combat mode. "Impossible. Nothing can track us in this nebula. The energy interference is too strong." Sarah stood up slowly, a smile spreading across her face. "Unless you know exactly what frequency to use." The ship shuddered again, and this time the emergency lights flickered on. Systems that had been dead for hours began humming back to life. The air recyclers started working, and clean oxygen began flowing through the vents. Most importantly, the communication array sparked to life with a burst of static. Through the static came a voice, clear and strong, speaking in perfect standard galactic. "Mining vessel Prosperity's End. This is the UES Retribution. We have you on our sensors. Please respond." The 43 prisoners stared at each other in shock. Zephyr's hands flew over her newly functioning panel. "That ship, it's not showing up on any of our sensors. How is that possible?" Lisa Park, the human communications officer, moved to the comm station and activated the transmitter with practiced ease. "UES Retribution, this is Prosperity's End. We have 43 souls aboard, life support critical, requesting immediate assistance. The response came instantly. Understood. Prosperity's end. We see you. Prepare for emergency docking procedures. Retribution out. Vex's warrior instincts were screaming warnings. How do we know this isn't a trick? How do we know they're really here to help? Tom Bradley, a stocky human with calloused hands and a miner's practical mind, laughed. Because if they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. Look around you. Our systems are working again, aren't they? It was true. Whatever ship was out there had somehow restored power to their failing vessel. The temperature was rising. The lights were steady. And for the first time in days, the air didn't taste like rust and despair. Through the small porthole in the main cabin, a shadow began to take shape against the swirling colors of the nebula. At first it was just a darker patch in the cosmic fog, but as it grew closer, the prisoners could see it was massive. Larger than any Authority ship they'd ever seen. Its hull was matte black and covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to bend light around them. "By the seven suns," whispered Korath, all four of his arms pressed against the porthole. "That's not just a ship. That's a fortress." The docking procedure was unlike anything the aliens had experienced. Instead of the crude magnetic clamps used by most vessels, the human ship extended what looked like liquid metal tentacles that wrapped around their hull with perfect precision. The connection was so smooth that they barely felt it. And suddenly, the steady hum of truly advanced life support systems filled their ship. A voice came over the intercom, different from the first one, warmer and somehow more personal. "This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the United Earth Ship Retribution. We're sending a boarding party to assess your condition and provide medical assistance. Please remain calm and follow our crew's instructions." Dr. Vasquez was already moving toward the airlock. "Admiral Kane. I served under his father during the colony wars. If Marcus is anything like the old man, we're in good hands." The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss, and the first human to step through took everyone's breath away. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with silver hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His uniform was pristine black with silver trim, and he moved with the confidence of someone who had spent decades in the depths of space. Behind him came a medical team carrying equipment the alien prisoners had never seen before. Devices that scanned their health without touching them, emergency food packets that automatically adjusted their nutrition content based on each being's species, and medical supplies that seemed to know exactly what each prisoner needed. "I'm Admiral Kane," the man said, his voice carrying easily through the cabin. "We're here to get you home safe. All of you." Vex stepped forward, his warrior's pride still intact despite their circumstances. "Why? We're criminals. Outcasts. The Authority threw us away for good reason." Kane's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes grew harder. "The Authority's idea of justice and ours are very different things. Nobody gets left behind in the void. Not on my watch." As the medical team worked, Kane explained what was happening. "We've been patrolling the Outer Rim for 20 years, following the exile routes, looking for ships like yours. Every time the Authority dumps someone they consider undesirable in dead space, we find them." Zephyr looked confused. "But how? The Galactic Authority has the most advanced tracking systems in known space. How have they never detected you?" Kane smiled, and for the first time since their ordeal began, the prisoners saw hope in a human face. "Because we've been preparing for this kind of work for a very long time. Human engineering isn't just about building things that work. It's about building things that keep working when everything else fails." Dr. Vasquez was helping distribute the emergency supplies when she asked the question everyone was thinking. "Marcus, what's the real situation out here? How many ships like this are operating?" Kane's expression grew serious. "More than the Authority knows about, fewer than we'd like, but enough to make a difference. We call it the Forgotten Protocol. Every human ship that goes into deep space carries orders to watch for exile vessels and abandoned colonies. We've rescued over 3,000 beings in the last 5 years. The alien prisoners looked at each other in amazement. 3,000 rescues meant 3,000 times the Authority had tried to dispose of inconvenient people, and 3,000 times humans had said no. As the immediate crisis passed, and everyone began to feel truly safe for the first time in days, Korath approached Admiral Kane with a thoughtful expression. "Admiral, why do humans do this? What do you gain from rescuing criminals and outcasts from other worlds?" Kane was quiet for a moment, looking out through the porthole at the swirling nebula that had almost become their tomb. "Because if we don't, who will? Because leaving people to die in the dark is wrong, no matter what they've done. And because someday, when humans need help, we want the galaxy to remember that we never abandoned anyone who needed us." The ship shuddered again, but this time it was the gentle vibration of engines coming online. The Retribution was preparing to leave, and with it, 43 beings who had been written off as lost forever. The Terran Redemption. The command deck of the UES Retribution was a marvel of human engineering that left even the most cynical aliens speechless. Instead of the cramped, utilitarian bridges found on Authority ships, this space was open and flowing, with holographic displays that seemed to float in mid-air and control stations that responded to thought as much as touch. Admiral Kane stood at the center of it all, his hands moving across displays that showed not just their current position, but the location of every exile ship, abandoned colony, and distress signal within 100 light-years. Sarah Chen, Dr. Vasquez, and the other human survivors stood beside him, finally understanding the scope of what they'd stumbled into. "Atlas, status report," Kane commanded, and the air shimmered as an artificial intelligence materialized beside him. Unlike the crude holograms used by most ships, Atlas appeared as a constantly shifting geometric pattern of light that somehow conveyed both vast intelligence and warm personality. "All rescued individuals are stable and recovering, Admiral," Atlas reported in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "However, we have a problem. 3 Authority patrol ships are approaching our position, estimated arrival in 47 minutes. Vex, who had been quietly observing from the edge of the bridge, stepped forward with his cybernetic eye glowing. "They tracked us here. The Authority doesn't like loose ends." Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka, a compact woman with sharp eyes and quick hands, looked up from her tactical station. "Admiral, they're not just patrol ships. I'm reading a Judgment-class destroyer and 2 Enforcer frigates. They're not here to arrest anyone. They're here to eliminate witnesses." The alien survivors felt a chill run through them. They all knew what Authority judgment ships were for: permanent solutions to permanent problems. No trials, no appeals, no survivors. Kane's expression remained calm, but his crew could see the steel in his eyes. "Atlas, implement Sanctuary Protocol. All rescued individuals to secure sections. Yuki, bring us to combat readiness, but keep us in stealth mode." Sarah Chen couldn't help but speak up. "Admiral, there are 43 of us aboard now. If you fight those ships, you're risking everyone for people you barely know." Kane turned to look at her, and his smile was both gentle and absolutely certain. "Captain Chen, that's exactly why we have to fight. Because the moment we decide some lives are worth more than others, we become the Authority." The bridge activity increased as the human crew prepared for what was coming. Sarah watched in amazement as the tactical displays showed the Retribution's true capabilities. The ship wasn't just hiding in the nebula. It was using the nebula itself as a weapon, channeling the cosmic energy into its systems and creating interference patterns that made it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Dr. Vasquez moved to stand beside Kane as the countdown continued. "You know, I served with your father during the colony wars. He used to say that humans fight differently than everyone else." "How so?" asked Zephyr, who had been granted permission to observe from the science station. "Other species fight to win," Kane replied. "Humans fight to protect. It changes everything about how you approach a battle." Atlas's geometric form pulsed with new information. Admiral, the authority ships are hailing the Prosperity's end on all frequencies. They're demanding surrender of all prisoners for immediate judgment. Kane moved to the communication station personally. Open a channel. Atlas. Let them know who they're dealing with. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead authority ship. The captain was a stern-faced Centaurian with the kind of expression that suggested he'd never met a problem he couldn't solve with superior firepower. Authority vessel. Kane's voice carried across space with quiet authority. This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the United Earth Ship Retribution. The individuals you're seeking are under Terran protection. I suggest you withdraw immediately. The Centaurian captain's face twisted with disdain. Human, you have no authority here. These are convicted criminals marked for final judgment. Stand down and prepare to be boarded. Kane's smile was polite, professional, and absolutely terrifying. I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Captain. These people are under my protection, and human protection means something. Your single ship against 3 of ours. Your arrogance will be your destruction. Atlas, Kane said quietly, show them what they're really dealing with. The space around the Retribution suddenly blazed with light as dozens of other ships decloaked simultaneously. Sleek human vessels that had been hiding throughout the nebula revealed themselves, each one bristling with advanced weaponry and surrounded by the kind of energy signatures that made authority sensors scream warnings. Captain, Kane continued conversationally, you're not facing one ship. You're facing the 3rd Deep Space Fleet, and we've been waiting for someone like you to show up. The change in the authority captain's expression was immediate and satisfying. From arrogant certainty to shocked disbelief in less than a second. Impossible. Our intelligence shows no human fleet activity in this sector. Your intelligence is wrong about a lot of things, Kane replied. For instance, you think you're here to execute criminals. We think you're here to learn why it's a bad idea to threaten people under human protection. Lieutenant Commander Tanaka's voice cut through the tension. Admiral, I'm detecting weapons charging on the authority ships. They're not backing down. Kane nodded grimly. Then we show them what happens when you threaten the people we've sworn to protect. All ships engage on my command. What followed wasn't so much a battle as a demonstration. The human ships moved with a coordination that bordered on telepathic, their weapons striking with surgical precision, while their shields absorbed the authority's return fire without strain. Within minutes, all 3 authority vessels were disabled, their weapons destroyed and their engines offline. The alien survivors watched in awe as Kane opened a channel to the defeated ships. Authority vessels, this is your only warning. The galaxy is bigger than you think, and there are more of us out here than you know. Every exile ship you dump in dead space we find. Every colony you abandon, we protect. Every person you write off as disposable, we consider family. Kane's voice grew harder, carrying the weight of human conviction across space. Go back to your superiors and tell them this. Humanity remembers. We remember every kindness, every cruelty, every promise kept and broken. And we never, ever abandon our own. The authority ships limped away, their communications arrays broadcasting the coordinates of the human fleet to every authority base within range. It didn't matter. By the time reinforcements arrived, the humans would be gone, scattered across the galaxy to continue their work. As the last authority vessel disappeared into hyperspace, Kane turned to address the rescued prisoners directly. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all species, he said formally, I'm authorized to offer you a choice. We can return you to any world where you'll be safe, help you start new lives with new identities, or, he paused, you can join us. Korath spoke for the group. Join you in what, Admiral? In making sure no one else gets left to die in the dark. We're building something out here far from the authorities' reach. Hidden colonies, safe worlds, places where people can live free regardless of their past or their species. It's not easy work, and it's not safe, but it's important. Sarah Chen stepped forward without hesitation. I'm in. You showed us that human promises mean something. I want to be part of that." One by one, the other survivors made their choice. Some wanted to go home, to return to lives they'd thought were lost forever. But more than half chose to stay, to become part of the network of hope that humans had built in the deepest darkness of space. As the Retribution set course for the hidden world of New Haven, where the rescued prisoners would begin their new lives, Zephyr found herself standing beside Admiral Kane on the observation deck. "Admiral," she said quietly, "why do humans do this? Really? What do you get out of risking so much for strangers?" Kane was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars wheel past as they traveled toward safety. "Because someday, Zephyr, humanity might be the ones who need help. And when that day comes, we want the galaxy to remember that when others needed us, we were there." The young Altarian nodded, understanding finally dawning in her crystal blue features. "You're not just rescuing people. You're planting seeds." Seeds of what? Hope. Trust. The kind of galaxy where help comes when you need it most, no matter who you are or where you come from. Kane smiled. "Now you're starting to understand what it means to be human." As the ship jumped into hyperspace, carrying 43 souls toward a new life, the legend of human reliability spread across the galaxy, one rescued life at a time. The Authority might have the power to exile, but humanity had something more valuable: the promise that no one would be left behind. And in the vast darkness of space, that promise burned brighter than any star.